This episode is brought to you by Indie Film Hustle Academy, where filmmakers and screenwriters go to learn from top Hollywood industry professionals. Learn more at ifhacademy.com. Isn't it funny that everything we're just talking about, this is not a chapter in film school. Like, this is not something that's talked about ever, about the politics. There should be a course called The Politics of the Set.
Oh, yeah, you're so right.
You know, the politics of the set. Like, you know, being a younger director, I mean, I've had experiences where I've had older DPs. I'm sure you've had this too. Older DPs who come in and you're like, I want to move this camera over here. They're like, nah, you know, you don't understand. Like, and they'll fight you, or an established production designer, and they don't collaborate. They just push their egos out because they're 25 years in the business more than you. They don't talk about that stuff.
It's interesting. I think we should wallow in this for a second.
Sure. Absolutely. This is gold. Yeah.
I won't name names, but there's a DP we work with who's very experienced. He's a dear friend of mine now, but we had a rough go on one movie, right? A guy, a white man. I mean, you can go through the catalog and figure it out.
I think I know who it is. I won't say the name, but I think I know who it is.
And he's a dear friend of mine now. I love him, but we had a rough go, and it was a territorial thing. It was a white man thing, and I hate to bring the race thing into it, right? And then I want to talk about something on the backside about what you said, the politics of a crew. That's very important. And I would say, okay, I want this wide shot. And by this time, I'm well established as firmly, entrenched in the visual style of my movies with my brother, right? I design them top to bottom. I draw every shot, right? There's no mistaking that I'm not handing off that baton. And I said, I need this shot because it will get me excited for the rest of the day. And he's like, no, I think it should be over here. So I let him have it the first day, right? And then he does something in front of, a really big actor. Me and my brother were setting up the shot, and he kind of pushes us aside. He goes, that's what you guys think? Well, here's what I think. And he puts his hands out and starts doing that. And the big actor takes a step back and just watches and waits for what we do. And my brother is so bold sometimes he just goes, that's what you're going to do? Well, here's what we're going to do. And steps out and does that, right? Meanwhile, I'm having my costume designer, my production designer, and a few other crew members come up to me like the second week and say, this guy's being very condescending to you. You realize that, Albert? I said, yeah. I'm sitting in my chair. Another person comes up like, he's being very, I said, yep. So I go up to the guy. I said, come here. And this is when I learned to really check someone really right away. I said, have I ever brought ego to you? He said, no. I said, have I ever disrespected you? He said, no. I said, well, why the fuck are you doing it to me? And he goes, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that. I'll work on it. And I said, yeah, you do that. And then I walked away, right? And that day moving forward, we had this weird relationship. And I understand, part of it is you have to understand where they're coming from and, and their insecurities or their egos or whatever it is, right? But what I learned in that particular movie, which it started on From Hell, was you got to get the crew on your side. Forget about the DP for a second, right? I'm talking about the collective organism I was talking about. And the way you get them on your side is partly through, it sounds manipulative, it's not meant to be, is that you have to be kind to them, and you have to look them in the eyes. And the biggest thing is you actually literally have to touch them. You have to pat them on the shoulder, make contact with them, let them know that you feel them, right? Watch out for them, make sure they're not being abused, make sure they're not going over in hours, which I don't like doing anyways, right? And it's crazy what can happen if you just do a few things to make your crew like you. If they love you, they will do anything for you. If you need that 16, they will do it for you. If they don't, forget about it. But it was easy for me because I was growing also into being more verbal and being more extroverted because of the job. And I thrived off of taking care of my crew because I knew if I took care of them, they would take care of me. And in the end, they're taking care of your baby. And you don't want your babysitter disgruntled.
No, that's imagine you piss off your babysitters taking care of your babies as you walk out for dinner with your wife. Like, listen, bitch, I need you, and then take care of my kids. Bye.
It'd be like hand that rocks the cradle. Next thing you know, your babysitter's breastfeeding your baby.
Oh, kicking it old school with hand that rocks the cradle reference. I like it.
I think early 90s too, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it was like actually
Rebecca De Mornay.
Rebecca De Mornay. I forgot who the guy was, but that was 1990 because I was working in a video store in 90, and that was one of the films that went through my my purview. There's like I always
Who was
tell.
the other one?
Which one?
Annabella Shiora, or was it somebody else? Who was the other? Who was the mother?
Annabelle Shiora. Annabelle Shiora.
Okay.
It was
I
Annabelle
remember he's
Shiora.
working tonight. Yeah.
Yeah. It was. Yeah, it was. God, it was a good movie, man. That was a lot of fun. That was a nice 90s
Yeah,
movie.
Hey, that was a Hollywood Pictures movie.
It was a Hollywood
a Disney film.
It was a Hollywood Pictures movie, man. She's like I said, there's like a certain frame, like 87 and like 93. I go toe to toe with anybody on studio director when it came out.
Yeah, I mean, look at what Goodfellas was 90.
Yeah, but Goodfellas was 90. Yeah,
Warner Brothers 90. Yeah.
yeah, and that movie had a real big influence on you guys, right?
Yeah, I was in film school when it came out, and I, strangely enough, the girl I brought up earlier, who was boyfriend, with Tamara Davis, I went with her and a few other classmates, and I hated the movie at first. Like, I was like, what the fuck is Scorsese doing? Because I was such a Scorsese fan from like all his older stuff, right?
Sure.
And I'm like, this is unwieldy, the cameras, and I didn't realize what I was seeing until like a year later, I got on a video, and me and my brother and our friends, we were just like, like everybody. It was like the second Scarface. We knew everything, and we learned so much from that movie. And there would be no voiceover in Menace if it wasn't for Goodfellas. The kind of techniques that we were using were directly grabbed from that movie. And it was interesting. There was it's always nice when you're coming up and you see like two of your favorite filmmakers talking about you. And there was a New Yorker piece between Woody Allen and Scorsese in the early 90s, like after we did Menace, and they're talking about us. And Woody Allen's like, those black kids in LA, those black kids. And Scorsese's like, oh, you mean the Hughes brothers? And he's like, yeah. Well, they did that movie, and I think they were really influenced by your movie, Goodfellas, and you can see it. It was all in the movie, and Woody was absolutely right? And Scorsese says, no, I don't see it at all. I think they did their own thing, basically, right? And Scorsese was wrong. He was just being modest.
That must be an amazing experience, having Woody Allen and Martin Scorsese having a conversation about your film.
Oh yeah, no, it was mind blowing. It was almost like, my hero was always Scorsese coming up. From age 13 through 18 or 20, like he was the god. He still is.
Yeah.
But to see Woody Allen, who you love, referring to you as those black guys out in L.A., it's like, fuck off, dude. Go fiddle with your daughter. Keep your mouth shut.
No, exactly.